back when I was in the 4th grade, just a few years ago. Did you know that? We had an English teacher who used to play a game with us, and I used to love that game. It was called Finishing the Sentence. And what she would do, which you put up on the board, the beginning of a sentence, the first half. Usually the noun, maybe a description of that noun and a verb, and then we were to finish the sentence. I remember one that as I look back, because my friend was sitting next to me, he was kind of a wise guy, and the beginning of the sentence that she gave us was, the big, mean alligator ate, and then you finish the sentence. You know what my friend wrote? You guys are good, you know that? The mean, great alligator ate the teacher, he wrote, you know. She laughed. Thank God she laughed. For my friends who are here from the former churches, forgive me. Because some of you have heard this before. But I like to emphasize it in terms of our knowledge of life and perhaps even of the Scriptures. Do you know that there was a study done of the most famous movie lines of all history? Would you like to hear them?
Yes.
You don't have any choice, right? Here they are. Now what I want you to do is finish the sentence, okay?
Okay.
Clint Eastwood and Dirty Harry. Go ahead.
Make my day.
I can tell you guys are going to be good at this.
Punk.
Number 5. Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator. I'll be back. You guys are way ahead of me. You didn't even... You had the whole sentence. Number 4. Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz. Toto.
There's no place like home.
No, we're not in Kansas anymore.
We're not in Kansas either.
Now you got me. Either one of them is correct. You know, right? The one I had was, we're not in Kansas anymore, but we can go home too. That's okay. Number 3. Marlon Brando in The Godfather. I'll make him an offer he can't refuse, right? Number 2, one of my favorites. Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. Life is like, you never know what you're going to get. You guys are good, you know that? You're really good. And then number 1 of all time. The last words of Clark Gable in Gone with the Wind. Frankly, my dear.
Give it down.
Now you said damn in church, not Dr. Hall. Isn't it amazing how we remember those? Wouldn't it be great if we remember the Scriptures like that? Right? We can complete some Scriptures, but we can't complete them all. But I always know that sometimes in life we need to focus on the things that carry with us in the race. That's what Paul wanted Timothy, the young minister, to know, is that you can finish the sentence, the race of life, if you carry these things with you. He said first, the thing of faith. Always share the gospel and the good news with the people you come in contact with. You'll never go wrong. It will finish the sentence of their lives and of yours. It will finish the race and the reward will be great. Have faith when you go on the journey. Just like you have done this last month as you prepare for the Niles family. You've done a wonderful job with it. You've done it with faith. And that's a great witness. And I thank you for it and the power of it. You know, it's interesting how people go through life trying to handle it. Some people are believers in superstitious things rather than faith. I'm always amazed by that. It's okay, but I want you to have faith first. But it reminds me of the wonderful true story of a guy who was an all-star in Major League Baseball in the 50s. And this will really date me because I remember this player. One of the great names in all of baseball, I think, Minnie Minoso. Anybody ever remember? Played for the White Sox. Great outfielder. Fascinating guy. True story. Minnie Minoso, in the first game of a doubleheader between the White Sox and the Yankees, went 0 for 5. He struck out 3 times. In the 20 minutes between the first game and the second game, a reporter and a number of players noticed that Minnie Minoso was in the shower with his uniform on. And they asked him what he was doing. And Minnie Minoso said, "I'm washing off the evil spirits." In the second game of the doubleheader, Minnie Minoso went 4 for 4. 2 doubles, a single, and a home run. The reporter from the Chicago Tribune reported, after the game, he saw 8 players in the shower with their uniforms on. Sometimes we try to go through life with superstitions. I think we need to go through them with faith in Christ. That's what Paul wanted Timothy to know. Look at the scripture. He said, endure. Don't go fast. Be steady in that faith. Share the good news. Trust God. Years ago, and you know I'm a great fan of biography, I read the biography of Danny Thomas, the comedian, performer. And I think the greatest thing he did in his life was what? St. Jude's. And even today, all the great gift of healing St. Jude still does, it came from Danny Thomas. Listen to what happened to him early in his life. Danny Thomas wrote that as a young man, he lost all of his savings of $600 at a time because he was out of work. His wife, Rosie, had a baby on the way, and they needed money. He tried to work part-time jobs, but it was a tough time in life. The week before the baby was born, Danny Thomas said he had a total of $7.75. What would he do? In desperation, I went to church, he said. On that Sunday morning he went. The offering plate was passed around, and he put in his usual $1. Something unexpected happened that day, though. There was a missionary there, Vivian. And the missionary asked for an additional gift and made a wonderful speech. The priest explained the mission giving, and Danny Thomas felt something in his heart. He said, I got carried away, and I gave away $7 on top of the $1. I had 75 cents left. Given all that money, he walked up to the altar rail at the end of the service, and Danny Thomas got on his knees and said, Lord, I've given you my last $7. I need it tenfold because I have a kid on the way and the hospital bill is going to come. I've got 75 cents in my pocket. You won't believe this, Danny Thomas said. The next morning, the phone rang in our rooming house. It was a job offer. It wasn't too much, but it offered a part in a commercial. The job, I asked, what did it pay? $75. I literally dropped the phone receiver. First, I whooped with joy, and then an eerie feeling came over me. He remembered what he had prayed the day before in church. $75 was exactly 10 times the amount I had left in my pocket that I donated. I donated that $7 to $8. He said, I remembered that when I founded St. Jude's, that if you trust God, at some moment He's going to return the reward of that trust. Whatever you're going through these days in your life, I want you to know that God will return that trust and that love. It's what you carry, Paul said to Timothy on the journey. The trust and the faith in God first, and you're going to be okay. The trust and the faith to endure, and you're going to make a difference in the world. We need to put that ingredient together. We need to know what the symbolism of faith is, and that's investing ourselves in it. I love this wonderful story. Are you surprised? I love a story. Minister decided to give a visual demonstration and add emphasis to his Sunday sermon. And so he brought forward like a show and tell, a table with 4 worms placed in 4 separate jars. The first worm was put into a container of alcohol. The second worm was put into a container of cigarette smoke. The third worm was put into a container, this wouldn't be bad for me, of chocolate syrup. The fourth worm was put in a container of good soil. At the conclusion of the sermon, 30 minutes later, the minister reported the following results. The first worm in the alcohol, dead. The second worm in the cigarette smoke, dead. The fourth worm in the third worm in the chocolate syrup, dead. The fourth worm in good soil, alive. So the minister said to the congregation, "What can you learn, my people, from this demonstration?" The little old lady in the back of the church raised her hand, and he recognized her. And she said in a clear voice, "As long as you drink, smoke, and eat chocolate, you won't have worms." How come I think you're going to remember that more than anything else? In Dr. Hall's sermon today, I want you to know that if we exist as Paul wanted us to, and wanted Timothy to, in the good soil, we're going to live and achieve the race of life. We're going to finish the sentence. We're going to make it work. And I want you to know, from my heart to yours, you've taught me about that faith. And you've given me an example of that faith, and it's so important. Years ago, the newspaper columnist George Palance told a story, the true story of a young doctor who delivered a baby years and years and years ago to a poverty-ridden family in Montana. When the child was born, the doctor saw immediately that the child was cruelly deformed, especially in one leg. He had difficulty breathing. And the doctor in that moment thought these thoughts. He said, the other children are going to call him a cripple. They're going to make fun of him and call him limpy and lame. What a miserable life he'll lead. If I don't do anything, the doctor thought, he will die. Couldn't that be better? And then he said he remembered his faith. Listen to this, his faith in Christ and his Hippocratic oath. And he began blowing life into the baby's mouth. And it began to cry and act normally, except for the terribly deformed leg. Amazingly, several years ago, that doctor, now much older, had a daughter and a son-in-law killed in an auto accident. And the doctor and his wife, as their grandparents, took in their 10-year-old granddaughter, left as an orphan. One day that child was stricken with a crippling and thought to be incurable disease. But the doctor learned of a young doctor in the Midwest who was getting excellent results with this particular disease, and he took his granddaughter to see that young doctor. He noticed right away that the young physician was lame and walked with a limp. And he began to talk to him. Amazingly, he found out that young doctor, now with an unbelievable ability to cure that disease his granddaughter had, was the deformed baby that he had breathed life into 35 years before. Do you see how God's hand acts in the race of our life? If we trust Him, if we endure, if we ask for His help, He's going to find a way. He's going to tell us how to love each other. and to be there for each other. I want you to know, as in my last sermon to you, trust God, have faith, and endure. That's what Paul said to Timothy. Take those things in your bag on the journey. I like the poem that a 102-year-old man wrote about his life. It was entitled, If I Had It to Do Over Again, and maybe we can learn from it. If I had it to do over again, the 102-year-old said, I'd go barefoot more often in the spring and summer. I'd take more vacations and not feel guilty about it. Listen to this one. I'd worry about 99% less than I have. Not many of the things I ever worried about came true. That guy's 102. I like this one. I'd kiss more little old ladies. I'd visit the sick. I was always too busy to see. I'd witness to God's love without being ashamed or embarrassed. How about that? I'd say thank you a lot more often and damn you a lot less. And I'd spend more time with God and my family. Is he teaching us today? I hope he is. As Paul taught Timothy that day years ago. Have faith, have trust, have endurance. Don't give up. Don't let worry ruin your life. My grandfather, who worked for the New York Central for 55 years, can you imagine? One company. He used to tell me, remember, worry is the death of happiness. The more I live, the more I know he was right. Years ago, a biography was written of Marian Anderson. Marian Anderson, one of the greatest voices of all time. She was being interviewed by a reporter who asked her that classic question, what was the greatest moment of your life? And here's the choices she had. It could have been the moment when the great Toscanini called Marian Anderson's voice the finest of the century. Or the private concert she gave at the White House for the Roosevelts and the King and Queen of England. Or the $10,000 Bork Award from the city of Philadelphia for the person who has given the most to her hometown. Or the Easter Sunday in Washington when she, beneath the Lincoln statue, sang to a crowd of 75,000. Including the Supreme Court, the Cabinet, and most members of Congress. She had all of those moments to choose from for the greatest moment of her life. But she said it is none of those to the reporter. Marian Anderson said that the greatest moment of her life was the day she went home and told her mother that she didn't have to take in other people's laundry and wash them every day, or on her knees wash other people's floors till her knuckles bled, so her daughter could have singing lessons. Marian Anderson said, my mother went to the school of Jesus Christ. She knew, and she quoted this passage from Timothy, what to carry on the journey. Faith and love and trust. And so if we do that, we'll finish the sentence, we'll finish the faith, we'll finish the race that will give us the greatest reward, eternity. And I hope you'll be with me in that journey. Pack your bags with faith and trust and endurance. Timothy did and went on to ministry, great ministry, because Paul taught him what to do. but God taught Paul. I want to conclude my sermon to you today in my month of July with you with an old gospel song that means a lot to me, but it is a tribute to you. I'm not going to sing it. I have a terrible singing voice. Did you know that? Ask my wife. It's what, Irene?
It's one key.
One key.
Flat.
Right. Isn't it wonderful to be married for 40 plus years? He's the greatest, I'll tell you. Ray Bull sang this song. It's almost a spoken song years ago. About a dream he had of going to heaven with his best friend, who was a powerful witness to his life. And I dedicate it to you today. I dreamed I went to heaven, and you were there with me. We walked upon the golden shore and upon the crystal sea. And the angels, they were singing, and someone called your name. It was a young man. He was smiling as he came. He said, "You don't know me now, but then again, just wait. You used to teach my Sunday school when I was only 8. And every week you'd say a prayer before the class would start. And one day when you said that prayer, I asked Jesus in my heart. So thank you for giving to the Lord, for I was a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I'm so glad you gave." Then another man stood before you, and he said, "Remember the time the missionaries came to your church and their pictures made you cry? You didn't have much money, but you gave it anyway. And Jesus took the gift you gave. And that's why I'm in heaven today. So thank you for giving to the Lord, for I was a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I'm so glad you gave." One by one they came, as far as the eye could see, each one somehow touched by your generosity. And Jesus took your hand, and you stood before the Lord. He said, "My son, look around you. Great is your reward." So thank you for giving to the Lord, for I was a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am so glad you gave. And so I say to the congregation of Fulton First Church, thank you for giving to the Lord. I know the Niles family is coming into a wonderful gift. They will bring their gifts to you, and you will give your gifts to them, and you have a great and bright future. Thank you for your faith, your trust, and your endurance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. End of sermon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.